Less Annoying CRM is a simple, affordable CRM built specifically for very small businesses. It's a platform that promises to be, well, less annoying than the other CRMs that are out there. It gives you all the essentials like contacts, pipelines, tasks, and reports without the additional clutter or confusion. But its amazing ease of use comes at the expense of more advanced functionality. In this video, we'll dig deep into Less Annoying CRM. We'll talk about its core features, its pricing, its pros and its cons to help you determine if it's the right CRM for your team. Hey, I'm Dan Lehman from SoftwareFinds.com, and on our website, we've built lots of tools to help you review and compare the best software for your business. Let's jump into Less Annoying CRM. The first thing that you're going to see here on the screen is your workspace. It's basically a dashboard of everything going on inside of the CRM. Over here, we're going to see any tasks that are due. We've got our pipeline reports for any deal management. Down here, we have our activity report with any changes we've made in the system, any emails we have coming in or going out. We can see our calendar, and this does sync to our calendar that we might have in Gmail or Outlook, and we can have multiple tiers of calendars as well. We've got a really simplified navigation on the left-hand side, and I kind of like how we've got this nice hover effect that we can actually add new objects just by hovering. We can see our workspace. We can see different groups of our contacts and recent contacts. Our calendar will actually show us what's on today, or we can go ahead to future days as well and see what's on our calendar. So this is nice how we can kind of get this preview snapshot of all of these areas without even having to click into them. If I go to contacts, the thing that's kind of interesting about this is that we're able to see our contacts and our companies all in one dedicated view. We're not actually clicking between two different screens. Now, some of you might like this because it's one consolidated view. Others of you might say, I don't know if I necessarily want it set up that way. If you're in the latter group, it gets a little bit confusing because here for our record type, we can say, yeah, I want to see contacts and companies, or we could shift this to contacts only and apply that filter. But now if we want to see just the companies and not the contacts, well, I'm going to have to reset this again or choose instead our companies. And it just takes more clicks to be able to get there. So on one hand, it's a more simplified user experience. On the other, it means that we see everything all in one view by default. Now, again, I like how we have this ability to hover and see our recent contacts, or we could star our favorite contacts. But when we add filters, we can filter by certain criteria, and that's fine, but we don't have any way to really configure this view to see fields that we want to show. So while we can add our own custom fields and things like that, we don't get quite as much information if we want to be able to view by that. Instead, we're kind of restricted in terms of what we're seeing in this contacts or companies view. So for example, if I wanted to see different industries and then group it by those industries, I couldn't do it. I could add a filter to simply show me companies or contacts from that industry, but I couldn't actually have it display that view that I want. Let's go ahead and open up a contact. And here we can see we still have a contact list running down the left-hand side. I'm not sure if that's my favorite to have in our screen real estate there, but it could be convenient for you. We've got options to edit the contact up here. On the right-hand side is where we see the core contact information about that individual. We can attach different items to this. We could create events. We could create tasks. Groups are going to be different groups of contacts that we might have. Let me show you that for a second. I've created two groups, churn risk and VIP accounts, but these are what would be considered static lists or static groups, meaning I can create as many groups as I want here, and I can add the contacts to that group, but they're not automatically populated based on some criteria. So for example, if I wanted a group of recently contacted people or contacts, meaning that, I have contacts that have been contacted within 3 days and I want that automatically populated, it's basically me just defining those groups and adding the contacts to it. I do like that we can create relationships as well. So if we want to say, hey, these two contacts are related, we could select it, and then we could also explain the relationship between those two contacts. So that's nice, and we don't see that in all CRMs. We could add notes, and we get a nice little WYSIWYG editor here if we want to add notes to our contacts. And we can also have this contact linked to that company. So we can see the existing information for that company. We could click into the company record. Now, it's kind of interesting. Less Annoying CRM is one of the few companies that I think is actually merged the company and the person or contact record into one entity. Meaning if you do an import from a spreadsheet, you can actually import companies and contacts all in a single spreadsheet. That might be convenient for some people, but also might be a little bit confusing. Sending email in Less Annoying CRM is kind of a unique experience. It's not bad, but it's not really the same way that most other CRMs do it. So if I were to click on an email address from a contact record and I want to send an outbound email, what this is doing is it's populating an email, and I use Gmail. So it's populating my Gmail with a message. Then I just type like normal and use Gmail for whatever functionality I needed to. And then it's adding a BCC email address to be able to sync this back into the CRM. A lot of platforms do offer BCC syncing type functionality, but I think it's one of the few CRMs where there's no UI directly in the CRM to send emails. By default, it's just opening up your external email provider. Now, once you do add a contact to the CRM, if they send you email inbound as opposed to you sending outbound, then it's going to automatically save those emails. So I'm glad that that's automatic anyways. So here, if I look in my history, I can see that I received this email and I can click to open it up. No frills experience, but here I'm able to see the email itself. One usability feature that I really like is around tasks. You can create what are called task templates in the system. So we could give this a default name and a default description. And then based on when we're creating that task, we could add a relative due date. So if every new deal or every new contact that comes into the system, we want to easily be able to create some tasks for ourselves, we can do that and model that with these task templates. Pipelines are an easy to use feature, but again, are constructed a little bit differently than I've seen in most other CRMs. So we've got our pipelines here. We can create multiple pipelines, which is nice. So as an example, I have consulting leads and client engagements. When we create these pipelines, we can choose from some templates or we can create our own. We can add our own colors and icons for it. And we can edit the different stages or statuses of our pipeline. So we can create multiple different statuses if we want. And then we also have close statuses to determine, hey, once we've actually moved through the pipeline, is this considered won or lost? What I could see is a little bit confusing is that we don't have an area for a dedicated pipeline or deal management on the side. What we do have is reports, and we can click on pipeline reports for any one of those pipelines, or we could go to our add button and quickly add a new pipeline item, either one of those pipelines, and create a new item for it. So here is a pipeline report of my existing pipeline items. Now here we have our different statuses you can see with the different colors up here, and we could click into that to view details about that pipeline item. We don't have a lot of fields on this out of the box, but we can add custom fields. We can also add our own notes and tasks to this as well. Similarly to our contacts, we have our history down here at the bottom. When I create a new pipeline item, I can choose to connect it to an existing contact or company, or we can attach it to a new one where first we create the contact or company, and then it creates the deal or pipeline item as well. Now, I always used to laugh when CRMs would brag about how fancy their Kanban is for managing their deal pipeline, because in all honesty, the vast majority of CRMs I have used all have Kanbans. You can drag and drop your deals between the different statuses, very visual, very drag and droppable. But Less Annoying CRM hasn't created a Kanban style view. All we have here is a report to summarize our different pipeline items. We don't have a way to really see the visual movement of this through the pipeline. Back in our workspace, we do have a bit more of a visual identifier, such as if we want to view the number of leads in each of those statuses. So it's a bit more visual. But what if I want to see the amount of revenue that we have at each stage of the pipeline? I can't do that. One of the newer features of Less Annoying CRM is its own built-in form builder. So here we can create our own form, add our branding to it. We can add different fields. And this is pretty incredible. I would say the majority of CRM form builders only let you choose fields from a single record type. But here I can actually choose fields from the company, fields from the contact, and from our pipeline itself. So that can be mapped in automatically. That's an awesome feature. And we can control what actions occur when we submit this form. So in a way, this is a very light automation builder. We can attach our opportunities, we can attach them to groups, create tasks automatically, add a note, assign this. We've got a nice little automation builder within the forms. But to segue into our conversation on automation and customization, that's about all we get for automation is some of these notifications or reminders or these little automation actions within the form builder. If you're looking for a canvas where you can create if-else type logic and have different triggers and actions, then this is not the right CRM for you. Now, that being said, if you're willing to work with a third-party vendor like Zapier, then they do have a Zapier connector in which you can use that to automate and integrate different actions as well. So here, if we take a look at our actions for our trigger event, we can see that we've got quite a few options in terms of new form submissions coming in, or if a contact is deleted or a new contact is created, or we see items change their status in the pipeline. These are things that we would expect in an automation builder, and you can do it here in Zapier. Likewise, as actions, then we've got options to create new contacts, create notes, create new groups, create pipeline items and tasks. And so we've got some of these options as well that we can do if we're trying to push data back into Less Annoying CRM. And if you don't want to use Zapier, or if you want to productize this or combine it with other applications, you can do so using their API. Their API has very similar functionality to the Zapier connector, but it's pretty incredible that for a company who didn't build out the automation side themselves, that they do make that API available, because oftentimes we find with smaller CRMs that they don't really expose an API, and so it's awesome that they've chosen to. Another way you can customize the system is by adding your own custom fields. We can do this to our contacts, our companies, and our pipeline items as well. If we click into one of those entities, we can create a new custom field, give it a name, and then here we can choose a field type. We've got several different options to choose from. I'm glad we've got things like currency fields, date fields. Those are always important. You can have a custom file field and connect to different contacts, which is cool. I think the biggest thing lacking here is that we don't have any computed or calculated fields. So if you wanted some kind of formula calculation like you might have in Excel, then you wouldn't have access to this here. You also can't create custom objects in Less Annoying CRM. So if you're trying to track something like a subscription or a property in real estate, then there's no really good way to do this. As I alluded to before, reporting is pretty limited in this system. We can see our pipeline reports. We have an activity report, which we can see kind of all up, or we can see at that contact level. And we have a task report to see our open tasks. But you can't create custom reports, so if you did want to be able to do so, you'd have to pull data via the API or a Zapier automation if you wanted to tabulate that and show it in a different system. When it comes to mobile, there is no dedicated mobile application that you can download from the App Store. The CRM itself is mobily responsive, meaning it'll show in a nice way on your screen if you go to it in a browser on your phone. But that also means it's not going to tap into more native functionality on your phone, such as actually logging your phone calls. When it comes to pricing, this is the easiest pricing analysis I've ever had to do in any one of these videos. Pricing is simply $15 per user per month, and there are no additional upsells, there are no higher tiers. Everything you saw in this demo, you're getting access to for that $15 a month. In fact, there's not even a toggle between monthly and annual pricing where you get a discount on annual. I think you can pay for it annually if you want, but there's no real advantage to do so. It's just very simple, transparent pricing. There is no free plan, but there is a very generous 30-day trial for you to test it and see if it works for you. Let's hop over to softwarefinds.com to see how Less Annoying CRM compares to its competitors. So I'm here in the CRM category, and if I scroll down the page, I can see that Less Annoying CRM is kind of in the middle of the CRMs that we have reviewed so far. And we've got these 5 different criteria we use to evaluate CRMs. So first up, Less Annoying CRM is pretty strong in the value category. How much bang are you getting for your buck is essentially what we're asking here. And this is really strong here because you have that simple single tier of pricing that's relatively affordable, doesn't scale up and suddenly balloon in order for you to access these features. The impact, on the other hand, is quite low. Here we ask questions about how relevant the features are compared to their competitors. And if you implement all the features across the platform, is the platform going to keep up with you as you scale your business? So I think impact is quite low because it's very easy to use, but it's not giving you more of the advanced functionality you'd find in other CRMs. Configurability is somewhat in the middle. It's great that they have an API available and they've got a really good Zapier connector, so there's a lot that you can do. But without their own automation engine inside the platform and with no support for custom objects, it's a little bit limiting if you need to do things kind of in a way that's unique for your business. Ease of use is where Less Annoying CRM totally shines. It's the easiest to use platform that I've ever reviewed, and pricing transparency is a clear win as well. There's nothing hidden. You know exactly how much you're going to pay. So come over to the website because then you can choose how you want to weight those criteria. For example, if you say, hey, ease of use is the most important thing to me, well, there you go. Less Annoying CRM is completely the way you want to go. But if instead you're saying, well, I have kind of this mix between impact and value, and you change this up a little bit, you're going to see where these CRMs rank, and there might be other better options. The other thing you can do is come over to our charts, and this is where you can see kind of this grouping of how these CRMs perform against each other. So again, if we're looking at value against configurability, then Less Annoying CRM is here, kind of towards the top end, but a little bit in the middle of the pack. But if we were to change this to ease of use against configurability, then this is a clear leader in the space because it's so easy to use and still relatively configurable. So to sum it up, who is Less Annoying CRM a good fit for? If you are a solopreneur or a business owner, you're looking for ease of use, maybe you're coming off of spreadsheets and you're not very technical and you just want something that is easy to get started with. You don't have to go watch a bunch of videos. You don't have to hire a consultant. I think this is a great CRM. If, on the other hand, your team is scaling quickly, you want to better manage communications, you have things like phone calls, SMS you're trying to track. If you have more complexity of needs around automations and the way you track deals, then Less Annoying CRM is probably not the best choice. If after watching this video, you're still not quite sure if this is the CRM for you, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and check out our other videos of reviews and comparisons.